podcast is in session. This is the Draft Seminar Rookie Profile Series hosted by Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, and I am joined by John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar. On today's episode, we are talking about Jalen Tolbert, one of the hidden gems of the 2022 draft class here. The entire Rookie Profile Series will be simulcast on the Rookie Big Board podcast channel, the Rookie Big Board YouTube channel, as well as the NFL Draft Bible podcast network. You can check out more of John's work at footballdiehards.com, and you can get access to my entire rookie rankings, including the full 85 player plus valuation rookie big board at patreon.com/the FF Educator. John, Jalen Tolbert, a group of five darling with legitimate NFL draft translation.
Just before we came on, Matt and I was telling Matt how I kind of really like Jalen Tolbert. Last night, I was watching more film and this morning of the young man. And I know the challenge ahead of him coming from a group of five program in the Sun Belt Conference. But the reality is he went to the Senior Bowl, and he has had national attention. There are big-time media draft analysts who like this young man, myself included. 2021, Matt, he was the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year as a redshirt senior. So some people with early breakout age, power, or group of five prospect, they're not going to really rank him very highly and have large question marks about him. But this year, he dominated, Matt. 82 receptions, 1,474 yards, 8 touchdowns. This number I love. He averaged 18 yards per catch. That's outstanding. All of them were school records. Very fascinated by this prospect. Go back to the 2020 tape and 2021. You need to watch both years. He was first team all Sun Belt both seasons, and he produced back-to-back 1,000-yard campaigns. The one hard thing that when you watch Jalen Tolbert, Matt, in my book, you have to separate skills from the competition. Matt, he totally blew people away in the Sun Belt Conference. He probably, I saw the game against Tennessee, and Tennessee isn't dominating, but at least they have NFL defensive backs. The Sun Belt Conference, there might not be a defensive back that Tolbert has faced that is in the NFL. So you've got to look at the skills. He concluded his campus tenure as the school's all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. Why the narrative is even more fascinating, you go back to high school, Matt, 2-star prospect. But what is fascinating in my book, he earned 3 letters in basketball and baseball. I like these athletes who in high school did more than one sport and gained different skills that will help them be successful as an athlete. What does your film breakdown tell us about Jalen Tolbert, Matt?
Yeah, John, it starts with the speed, all right? I give him a good tape score, 78.6. It starts with his speed, though. He accelerates really well up the sideline and along the boundary. He's quick off the line of scrimmage. I expect him to test with a solid 40 time for his size. He's got great contested catch ability, John. He's physical. He battles for space before the catch, and he has great contested catch along the boundary. And here's where it's important, right? You talked about this. You have to be able to pull a prospect out of their level of competition, right? So look at somebody from previous years, right? You look at Antonio Gandy Golden, right? Out of Liberty. He was somebody, he looked like a contested catch monster playing against that competition, but he wasn't really necessarily doing some of the smaller things that can help you project with confidence that he's going to be a contested catch guy at the next level. So Jalen Tolbert, when you look at his contested catch ability, right, he's comfortable along the boundary. He understands where to put his feet. He understands where to position his body to win along the boundary. Jalen Tolbert consistently creates space before the catch point, right? These are things that are really important. He's not just relying on being physically bigger or physically faster than defensive backs. He's doing those things that are going to translate and help him win against NFL backs as well. Now, John, some negatives here for him. His hands, man. It's like I'm watching his tape and I get excited every time he makes a big play, and then I see a mental drop and I see a concentration drop. And if Jalen Tolbert didn't have these concentration drops, he would be right up there for me in the same conversation we're having about guys like David Bell and Jahan Dotson. But these concentration drops, John, I'm not falling for them. There are a lot of people that year after year will fall for these guys that have inconsistent hands, and it's not something that I'm willing to do. So I'm still high on Tolbert, but I have to knock him on that, and it kind of puts him in this middle ground territory for me. He's also going to do most of his work before the catch. He's not a huge yak guy. He did win underneath. He did catch the ball with some space pretty consistently for South Alabama, but he didn't necessarily, chew up a bunch of ground after the catch, which is fine. That's just an archetype. That's a mold. That's a fit, right? A boundary type presence in the NFL usually isn't going to chew up a lot of yards after the catch. A lot to like about Jalen Tolbert, but have to proceed with some realistic caution as well. John, tell me about the numbers.
Before I look at the model, I want to say two quick things. One, I gave him a 79, Matt. You gave him a 78.6. So once again, we are lockstep in our analysis after watching film and plugging him into the model. Two, I am worried what I see on film. When you are dominant at the group of 5 level, players like Tolbert can get a little lazy on their route running because he can dominate lower level competition. When you get to the higher level, you can't be lazy. Your breaks have to be unbelievable. Every little part of your route from beginning to end must be nearly perfect. He needs some coaching. And does he have that inside determination to be 100% the best he can every play? But when I plug him in my model, Matt, look at this. 178 receptions. Bingo. And these two stats I like because they're interconnected. 3,140 yards, but 17.6 yards per catch. He exceeds both my benchmarks there. And look at the last season he was on campus, Matt. 60% catch dominator. And if you remember, Jake Bentley was the quarterback, and he's he has worked his way around college football. So I'm impressed with that. And the team aerial dominator is 48%. He's 6'3", 190. He has NFL size. He can find holes in zone coverage. And Matt, when I was watching film this morning and last night, one player stuck in my head, Tyler Boyd. I think Jalen Tolbert would be a great third receiver. I don't think he can be the alpha, but he was versatile this year. South Alabama moved him into the slot more than they did the first couple years on campus. So he has on tape slot and outside versatility. If he could end up with like a teammate like Jalen Waddle in Miami, where he doesn't have to be the star, that's what makes, Tyler Boyd so fascinating. With Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Boyd is seeing real beneficial matchups. Jalen Tolbert needs to end up at a place where there's an alpha male. Matt, what should fantasy footballers know about Jalen Tolbert?
Yeah, John, right now my NFL draft projection for him is day too late. That's that picks 50 to 102 bucket. And there's two reasons that I have confidence that, for the ups and downs that we've talked about, that Jalen Tolbert is going to go in the top 100. The NFL draft circles, John, have been high on Jalen Tolbert for over a year now. Oftentimes with these group of 5 prospects, it's like somebody blows up in their last season and then all of a sudden there's momentum, there's hype, right? Think about Dwayne Eskridge last year. There was this recent hype for Dwayne Eskridge and it propelled him into the top 100 picks. Jalen Tolbert has been highly regarded for over a year now as somebody who very well could fall into day 2 capital, and his senior campaign only solidified that. The other thing, you mentioned it, John, sometimes it was difficult. What does his route running look like against group of 5 competition? How do you pull him out of that? He went to the Senior Bowl, John, and he looked good. Specifically from my notes watching the practice tape, I thought he had a really good release, and that was something that's important for me because they would not play press coverage against Jalen Tolbert in the group of 5. He was way too fast. They couldn't do it, so they were playing so far off of him, and I think that feeds into what you were talking about oftentimes he would just sit on a curl route because he could. They had to give him 7-9 yards of separation so that they didn't get burnt by him right over the top. And so when he had to play up, when he had to have that route running ability and that release ability, he looked really good at the Senior Bowl and one-on-one drills. And from what I'm hearing, most folks felt like he was one of the top 3 receivers down there at Mobile. So day 2 draft capital for me, I feel confident projecting that. And his rookie big board tier here, flex filler, exactly what you're describing with Tyler Boyd, John. A guy that you can slide into your wide receiver 3 slot on your fantasy lineup, your flex spot as you get further into the season. You know, he's somebody who's probably going to put up between 9 and 12 fantasy points a week, but that's good. We need that, right? And right now, his ADP projection for me is still late round 2. And I think you're going to get a steal with Jalen Tolbert if you can get him at pick 211, 212, 209 in your rookie drafts, because everybody is going to want justifiably, right? I'm not knocking it. Everybody wants Jahan Dotson. Everybody wants George Pickens, right? Everybody wants these other second-tier wide receivers. And if you can get Jalen Tolbert even into the 3rd round, it wouldn't surprise me in Superflex leagues. You're going to get a really good value in him. And I'm going to have mid-level exposure to high-level exposure on him, John. You know, if he does consistently fall into the 3rd round, I'm going to be really heavy on him. If he ends up in that mid to late 2nd, I'm going to have a good amount of exposure to him. Just like John, I hope all of our listeners have a good amount of exposure to the entire Draft Seminar Rookie Profile series. To do that, you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed, whether you're watching, whether you're viewing. If you're checking out this episode along the journey here, go back and listen to all the other ones. If you've already listened, listen again. There's a lot of good nuggets tucked in to these episodes because, as always, we appreciate